but I think there's a lot of pressure for it to be perfect. And sometimes, the greatest reward and the pages that you might become most proud of are things that, aren't perfect.
Hey, I'm Becca with the Happy Ever Crafter, and this week I'm so excited to bring you Samantha Dion Baker, who is an amazing artist, and she's most well known for her Draw Your Day journals. And so she's walking us through today her process for those journals, and I promise you're going to like it, and I'm selfishly just so excited to watch. So she's going to walk us through all of that and tell us about her process and show us some of her stuff. Let's jump right in. Sam, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to have you on here. I feel like I have been a fan of your work for so long and just like creeping you from afar. So I'm really excited to chat.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. That's so sweet. Well, thanks for having me.
So I've already introduced kind of what we're going to be talking about in like the lesson that we get to watch you do. But because we're in sort of, I consider all like art and doodly things and like sketching and journaling all kind of like the same industry, but it's not really, because most of my audience is like lettering and calligraphy specific. So I feel like a lot of people probably haven't heard of you in this specific audience. So for people who haven't, can you give us a little rundown of who you are, what you do, where you are, all those kinds of
Well, I'm in Brooklyn, New York. Part of my history is that I was a graphic designer for like 20 years. I still am. I still do a lot of design work. That's why if anybody knows my Instagram handle says Dion Baker Design. That's where that comes from. So that's why I kind of have this studio and I have clients and I'm working on multiple projects all the time. But Draw Your Day is really what we're talking about, and that came about and sort of changed my career. And it just came about because I wanted to teach myself how to draw again, because I just stopped drawing, and I started playing with letters and playing around with patterns in my sketchbook, trying to make notes about visual notes about what my kids did and what we did on big milestones that they had made, or vacations we went on. But then it just evolved, and I just had so much fun with it, and I just decided one day it was kind of forming, this idea was forming that I was going to just illustrate my day every day on a page. And I really wasn't, looking at any other work. Keeping an illustrated journal is not special, unique to me. It's just my sort of way about doing it, I think, caught on. And and now through the pages of my sketchbook, I've like transitioned almost fully to illustration. So that's the story.
So you said you still do graphic design work, but then you said that you mostly are doing this.
Yeah.
So
how does that happen?
What do you get paid to do? Like, what does the money making look like in the art world of Samantha Dion Baker?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I have various things going on, but for example, I did a whole map for a new market on the Lower East Side here. This is a great example. And when the woman came to me, she said, we want you to illustrate, and there was not an art director involved or anybody involved. And I said, well, yes, I can, but how are you getting it printed? Because I have that background, I could offer her that service. So not only did I illustrate the whole thing, but I also, dealt with the printing and delivery and, setting it all up, and the nature of it, because it was a map and it had a bunch of different information front and back. It was, even though it was all drawn by hand, it was a lot of handwritten letters and lots of information, directional information. So it needed to be designed, if that makes sense. It wasn't just like, can you draw a picture of, people in the market?
That makes a lot of sense to me. It's like you found this perfect way to take your background and your education and this new passion and hobby and put them together into like a beautiful thing that you clearly enjoy and love doing.
Yeah. I did a menu for a spa recently that I had shared on my Instagram. That's another great example, because they needed a system where they could easily edit it. So I had all of my illustrations placed in, and I set up the whole file, and I actually designed the whole book. Yeah.
So you touched on one thing when you said that it's not just, drawing a picture. It's like actually thinking of the elements and how to lay them out and all that stuff. And that's kind of one of the big things that we're going to talk about today.
Yes,
and it was one of my first questions just before we get into your lesson, because I know that that's what people are going to want to see. But like, I've always been drawn to journaling, no pun intended. And I always have people, when they see mine, they're like, oh my God, that's so cool. But I would be totally paralyzed by where to start and like how to decide what to put on the page and what order to put them in and all of that kind of stuff. So how do you decide what you're going to put on the paper? And then how do you, like, what would be your advice for people who are paralyzed to like even start because they don't want to screw up and they don't want to, get overwhelmed?
Yeah. I mean, looking at a blank page can be scary when you just really don't know where to begin. I mean, what I usually do is I'll think of either one thing or three things. I try and generally work in odd numbers. And then it always starts in pencil and I just sort of start sketching. But sometimes something will just go down really large and then I'll kind of work around it. A good way, I mean, my Skillshare class is good to, it's a great resource for helping with layout, because I give 3 basic designs that you can build from. And one is just starting at the top and then working your way down through like a roadmap. And so you just kind of work in 2 columns or 3 columns and just go down and then up, and then, or you can just go down, down, down. This is the thing that's a little bit hard to explain or teach, and that is that, and I guess I take it for granted, but the biggest question is, how do you plan your page? And it's just, years of design and sort of understanding like big and little and eye-catching things. And, if you start in one place and it ends up a certain way, then you kind of work around it until you fill all the empty spaces. I'm really big on filling all the space,
I mean, I think that like most people want to be like, I just want someone to give me like the exact layout, the exact template so that it's not overwhelming. But I love that for you, and what we're doing today is like, I mean, your tagline, like draw your day, that gives you the content already that you're going to do. And it also, to me, if you're doing something that's personal to you like that, and it's going to be in your journal, like there's no pressure to show anyone. So especially when you're starting out,
exactly.
like just draw, just start to get a feel for it. And then over time, you'll naturally kind of understand and learn your own style kind of thing.
We all need that space or that journal that isn't precious, that we can just, test your pens on and, make marks, or like even wipe your fingers on. I don't know. I mean, there's beauty in all of it. And so sometimes, just playing around with testing out your materials because you bought a new set of paints and you just want to splash color and, see what it does on the paper, how it reacts and how your new paintbrush works on the paper you're using, you can make something out of that. I believe that it's all exploration and fun, and it's a way of drawing your day. I mean, a lot of times I'll just be playing around with color and pattern and, no idea why or where. It's just sort of the mood that I'm in. And sometimes, the greatest reward and most of the pages that you might become most proud of are things that, aren't perfect. I love the craft of a lot of what you feature on your channel. I think it's all beautiful, but I think there's a lot of pressure for it to be perfect.
So whenever I travel, I always do a little doodle page, like it's like a journal of what I did in each country. And I can specifically remember one time sitting on the plane and I was doing one, and I thought to myself, like, okay, I'm going to completely do something totally different. I will not let myself do what I normally do and kind of the general layout I usually do. And it's my favorite page. Like, it's hands down my favorite one.
Exactly.
And so I think it's like take the pressure off, try not to think about what you always do, and just like see what comes out. And it makes it so much easier, and like I said, taking the pressure off. So totally agree.
I teach a lot. I even have a whole lettering workshop that I teach, but I don't teach it in the way that I always say in the very beginning, I say, if you want to learn traditional calligraphy, brush lettering, this is not the right place. So we talk about you just enhancing your natural handwriting. So I get people to like go up and write their name as if they were not signing a letter, because that's usually very quick and messy. But if you were like filling out a medical form, so you want to be like a little bit neater about it, and then I have like 5 or 6 people just write their names or a phrase or whatever it is they want, and then we just play around with what you can do with those letters, you know. And those are just letters that just come out, and there's so many fun ways of making them really cool, you know.
Yeah, I like that perspective, because I think, you know, like I said, there are a lot of people who really want the like technical step-by-step answer, but then there's the other side of people who are just like, I just want to play, and you know. Yeah, and I mean, think that we have to encourage that more.
Totally. I mean, there's no right way or one way to draw an A, but if you're drawing it in a specific style, or like using, you know, a guide to sort of say like, this is your push down with your downstroke, and like, and then you draw them perfectly in a row, and they all are supposed to look exactly the same, you know. And so there is sometimes this pressure that, you know, your A should look a certain way, but in my mind it's like, no,
break the rules.
Totally. Like, just have fun with it. And
well, speaking of just having fun with it and having your own style, I feel like I selfishly just want to get to your lesson because I want to see how you do it. Like I'm drawn to your style, and I always just like, I'm always interested to just watch people work. So I just want to jump into that. And then after your lesson, I have some more questions and our typical speed round. So let's do the lesson, and then we'll come back face to face.
Okay, sounds great. So here's my studio wall that has a lot of past journal pages. And what I wanted to discuss and why I'm showing you the wall is one of the most popular questions I get is, how do I plan my page? How do I arrange the composition? And as you can see, there's really no set rule. It's just really a basic understanding of big and little and color and playing off little things and big things off each other. You know, filling spaces with little things and having eye-catching elements, one main focus, and then other things that sort of fall around it. And it's also, you know, for me, it's just, I spent so many years working in design and you know, studying composition. So some of it sort of comes naturally to me. But there really aren't set rules. There's, you know, if any of you know about composition in school or you studied it, you know, like there's the rule of thirds, and 3 is a good number, odd numbers are good. But I don't know, I don't really know if you need to follow the rules, especially if you're just experimenting in a journal. So I'm gonna switch now to actually doing a page for you. And I know there's about 4 things that I'm going to add to my page, but I don't really know how it's gonna all play out yet. So let's go over and get started. Okay, so here I am set up. This is my journal. Here are my tools. I always have some black fine line pens. Microns are great. 2 different size watercolor brushes, pencil, and a big eraser. So I don't really have any plan. It's just gonna come together, I hope. My son needed a book ordered from Amazon. It's The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. I love drawing books, so I'm just gonna sort of, and it's just, I'm kind of making it up because it doesn't have to look exactly like the cover. And here it says The Time Machine. The letter spacing and centering is not perfect, but I can correct that with my pen. I'm not going to write anything yet because sometimes the writing just happens with my pen. The other thing that I'm going to add is I paint on leaves, and I'm having an event at my friend's studio next week, so we have been sort of revisiting the leaves that I paint on. And the thing is, though, I want everyone to understand is, if I'm working in my journal, this is authentic, this is real, this is really my life. So I'm not just gonna make stuff up just because I'm on YouTube right now and people are watching, but I'm not gonna just draw something that isn't really authentically from my daily life, because then what's the purpose of,
it being a journal. I would have to write in there, this is all made up. And the other thing is, this is kind of nice. And this is just sort of happening as I'm drawing, but I'm realizing that as these things are coming in, the other thing I was going to draw was pizza, because that's what I ate today for lunch. So maybe there's like a slice of pizza coming in. I don't know, how does that look? There's like 3 things pointed to the time machine. There's a lot of emphasis now on this time machine book. So the next thing is definitely need to write in the date. Sometimes I start with the date, but this time I didn't. So I think I'm going to add the date down here. I always have a lot of fun playing with lettering, so let's see. So I kind of like this. And then what I can do here is I can add little things if I want. I did have some almonds for a snack, so I could add some little almonds if I want. Maybe I'll start to. Then in these empty spaces, I can just write. That can be my journaling, where I write about, why there's pizza and the leaves and my son's new book for school. And I'm gonna go right into drawing with my pen. Now, this is where the real drawing for me happens. Everybody uses their own tools. What works for me might not work for you. It's really a personal choice. What I think what is really important to remember is that this is an art making practice. And so what I do for my day is obviously not what you're going to capture on your days, but this is also my way of drawing. It's not the way everyone draws. It's not the right way. There's no right way. There's no really right way of doing this. So that's why it's always been a little bit tricky for me to teach and share, because I want everyone to know that, however they choose to create their pages, and whether it's abstract just through color and line, or whether they draw, in a really stylistic way, or if they have, a style that is similar to mine, that's great too. There is no right way to do this. I often work with collage, and I love that. I love being able to add different things to my pages. So that's like the sort of groundwork of my composition. And I think it looks nice. And then here, I can explain what's going on. So, I might actually do this in pencil. Sometimes I'll do it right in ink, but today I think I'm going to do it in pencil first. So I'm going to turn this around. So right here, maybe I'll say, and then here I'm going to write. So now I'm going to start to paint. I'm just going to, freely go through that. So there you go. That's a pretty basic page, and I'm pretty happy with it. I might go back and add a little bit more paint and add weight to things, and I don't know, maybe even add a few more almonds to fill some more space. But you get the idea. It just sort of evolves. It just happens, and I kind of like how this, the composition is sort of all leading to the time machine. So let's hope my son likes that book. Anyway, let's get back to talking, Becca. Thanks for watching.
So the ones at the start of that, when like those ones behind you on the wall,
yeah,
that you showed us, are those like, so you just do the one like the one you just did in your journal, you would do that and then sometimes rip it out and put it up on your wall? Are those like, is that like a gallery of your favorites, or how does that? It just makes me like, oh my God, she just rips them out of her book.
No, never. Never. My journals are all perfectly intact, and they're on my shelf over there. And I have them all lined up. No. So when I was working on Draw Your Day, I had an intern helping me, and it was just art. It was a lot of work, but we together scanned like 1,000 pages because I needed to choose. And I also didn't, what if something happens to them? Like at this point, they're really precious to me and, to my family, and you never know. So I want to have most of the pages protected and on the computer. So, and then, I'm kind of messy. So some of them, especially for the book, just if there was like a thumbprint, I mean, I leave the imperfections, I love them. But, if there was just something really icky, And so when I moved into the studio, I was like, what am I going to put on that wall? And for me, the whole thing is this volume and this collection and my progress over the years and how it's changed and how every single page tells a story, but they're all part of a whole story. And so they're just printouts. Yeah.
That eases my stress a little bit, I have to say.
Yeah.
But you said that all of your sketchbooks are over on a shelf over there?
Yeah.
Can I put you on the spot to go grab your earliest one and your latest one?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, one sec. Yeah. Well, this is the very first one. And when I say first one, I mean the square sketchbook, because I'm kind of OCD and I like that they all line up. And it was just, I was just
oh my God,
playing around. I mean, they're so different. There's no paint on the pages. I just did I was playing around with quotes. Let's see. So here's just letters, bubble letters. I think, here's an early drawing.
I mean, it's still so amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Truly it is. I think even people watching this that are like, oh my God, that's when she started, is the people's ultimate goal. But yeah, but it is crazy because I know what your work looks like now. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of love the first page.
So what year was that?
So, like I said, though, when I say first, it's not like my first. Right. It's just, so this is March 7th to May 25th, 2014. Can you see that?
Okay.
And then here's the latest one. And on the latest one, I put the label at the top by accident.
I don't know. That's crazy, isn't it?
I know, totally. I was like, wait, what was I thinking? But it's the new sketchbook, so maybe that'll just be the new placement. So this one is October 8th to November 11th, 2019.
Okay.
I'll just open to the center because I love it. It's very different.
I mean, it's crazy how much it's changed.
Yeah, it's evolved a lot, and there's a lot of collage on here and little things pasted in. Working on little paintings that are kind of. I have a lot of little special things where I have a little tiny letter that goes in a mail slot, and I'm playing around a lot with little interactive. Here's another spread.
I love that stuff, just starting to implement little, and I love that there's so much in that journal that you can, when you close it, it doesn't fully close. It's really just so satisfying to me. I love that.
Yeah, and also, the big difference with this book is the paper is better, so I'm able to work on both sides. Right. It's all just much more fluid, so it's not always just a day. It's sort of multiple days.
That was my next question, actually. I was going to say, be honest. Do you actually do this every single day?
Not anymore, yeah. Okay. But I did. No, I did. I'm 100% honest. In 2016 and 2017, especially when I was working on Draw Your Day, the book, I did it every single day.
Wow.
At 2016, I did not take one day off. I don't know why. I don't know how I did it, but I did it somehow. I mean, now I can't do it all the time. But I do make time for it every day. It's just that I don't feel the pressure to complete a page. And I just sort of, like I said, it evolved into this fluid thing.
I just think it's so cool that I imagine your kids someday being able to take these and look through them 20 years or 30 years down the line and just being amazed at all these little notes. I think my mom has one calendar from when we were kids and it has a couple little notes, and even that blows my mind. But this is just next, it's so cool. It's so cool that you're able to do that. And even not doing it every day, just doing it every once in a while is still it's just next level. It's doing a little actual just written journal, but on steroids. So
yeah.
Cool.
Well, I just feel, for me, I would never go back and look at a written journal. I wouldn't, know where to find the information that I was looking for. It would be like, how do you keep track of that? I think it's amazing that, and a writer needs to do that, that's how they express themselves, but I'm more visual, so.
We talked at the beginning about how to like reduce the overwhelm if you're afraid of getting started. But I think one of the other main like barriers for people is that they feel like they don't know how to draw. Yeah. And so like for me, I do mostly a lettering journal. Like I just do different styles of lettering, and I sometimes incorporate little drawn icons and stuff, but yours is very like sketchy and like really well drawn. So would you have any advice for people who want to just learn how to draw better, or like any resources for that kind of stuff?
Well, my next book is going to be the perfect resource, but it's not going to be out for another year or so, but I'm writing it now. In the meantime, there's a lot of drawing books out there. I think that it is important to, if you do want to draw things literally, then, you do need to learn the rules of perspective and shading and symmetry and like all those kind of basic drawing rules. And then you can decide how you want to break them, but knowing them is really important to starting. I always say like Picasso, he knew how to draw things very, very literally and beautifully, and then he broke all the rules. So,
well, wasn't it him who coined that phrase, like learn the rules so you can learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist?
Yeah, exactly. So you have to find your own style, and by learning some of the basic rules, it's helpful to, just make those decisions.
Okay, before we get into the speed round, I just want you to tell people where they can find you have one book that's out already. You just mentioned that there's going to be another one, and this YouTube video will be out for a while. So at some point that'll be available too, but are they available on Amazon, or is it your website, or?
Yeah, they're available in bookstores and on Amazon. It's on my website, which is sdionbaker.com. And then SDion Baker Design. I added the design because on Instagram, and so SDion Baker Design is my Instagram, and that probably is my biggest platform for sharing my work.
Okay, so we know where to find you. We know your history. We got your lesson. Now it's time for the speed round.
Okay.
If you had to just think of the first thing that comes to your mind, what is your spirit animal?
Oh, definitely a cat.
A cat. Okay. So the reason I asked that question, it's not on my list, but I was on a podcast and they asked me what my spirit animal was, and I'd never thought of that before. And the first animal that came to my mind was a squirrel. And I said squirrel, and I was like, that's so weird. And then just recently, a couple weeks ago, someone told me that this is a real like psychological, like something that people study in psychology.
Oh, wow. I wonder
and
what it
if you look up whatever first comes to your mind, there's like all these things that'll tell you about your personality. So I looked up squirrel, and it was like actually pretty accurate.
Really?
Isn't that crazy?
That's so interesting. Wow.
Yeah. What is your favorite movie ever?
Oh boy. I'm going to say two different movies. And they're very, very different, and they're all. The first one is Grease, because I've been a fan of that movie since I was a little girl, and I know like every single word, the spoken words too. And then the other is, it's so tragic and awful, but it moved me so much since watching it. It was Sophie's Choice.
Who is your art crush?
I have so many. As far as, illustration, I would say Myra Coleman, because she just gets to do these great books, and someday I hope I can do that.
Cookies or chips?
Cookies. Totally. Yeah, that's easy.
What's your favorite place you've ever visited?
Oh, definitely Paris.
Oh, yeah?
And I've been to a bunch of places. We travel a lot, but it's my favorite place. Yeah.
Paris.
And second would be New York City. I'm very lucky. I just love my home.
That's awesome. If you could only use one type of pen for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Well, it would be my Copic multi-liner pen.
The ones you used in your lesson. Okay.
I mean, that's really all I use. I'm a creature of habit and devoted.
Okay, well, I will link to all the stuff we've talked about and where people can find you and all that kind of stuff. But thank you so much for coming on here. I'm so happy that we finally got to connect.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll talk again at some point, but for now, I will let you go.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye.
Samantha. Bye.